Hi.
You didn't think I was gonna do it, did ya?
You didn't think I was going to do a review of NXT New Year's Evil 2022. I had to. There was no way I wasn't going to. I had to see this to see the final nail in the coffin of Paul Levesque's pet project. It had to happen. So I want to make this clear before I get started. This is not going to be a detailed review. I'll tell you what I thought about the matches. I'll tell you what I thought about the certain people that was presented. And that's it. No images, nothing. So, let's start with Strong versus Carmelo Hayes for the NXT North American Cruiserweight Championship. You know why they did this, right? You know why they did this. Vince decided, well, I don't want the Cruiserweight title anymore. And Paul's shit, I gotta get rid of it, but people seem to like it. I know I'll combine the two and destroy Paul's legacy. The North American title was created by Paul. He wanted to give something new to the company. Now, I don't know if he was going to move this to the main roster. If he had, and let's say this, the U.S. title was retired, or the IC title was retired, and he brings in the North American title, it would have meant something if he had taken over the company, counting if it had happened. But this wasn't what Vince wanted. Vince wanted him to understand that anything there belongs to him. So he combined the two things that he owns. Now, I'm not going to tell you the match was not good. It was good. And I want to make this clear, almost all the matches here were good. The representation of most of the people here was good. But you got to admit, there's no real feeling here. Not because I'm an old lifer NXT 1.0 guy. I'm not. As you guys know who's watched me, I don't review NXT. I never watch it on a constant basis due to the fact, as I keep saying, anyone that I did like on the main show went to the main roster and got fucked. So I got turned off. So I'm the best person here to give a fair perspective of what's going on. But it is obvious what this is about. So, Carmelo Hayes, he won. I was not surprised. Vince has been dealing with Carmelo Hayes. Think about this, guys. You got to understand what happened here. The majority of the people who won here are Vincent Kennedy McMahon pet projects. Yes, Paul Levesque brought them in, but does not mean he has had control of them 100%. So this has been about Vince. So, we got that. Let's move on. Let me give it to you like this. Seeing that Imperium versus Riddle and MSK was a fine match. It was good to see that they managed to bring back Riddle to deal with the situation of MXK, because they kind of have similar runs like what happened in Impact Wrestling with the Rascals and how he acts so laid back like in RVD. Let's be honest, both these two kind of have a taste of RVD, flat out. The match itself was fine. Seeing Walter there was actually made sense with Imperium, having him with them. But do you actually think Imperium was going to win with Riddle there, the current Raw champion? No.
No.
Not going to happen. There was no way he was going to job on NXT 2.0, so they won. Which kind of hurts Walter, because there's so many people who love Walter and Imperium. And I know people are going to say, well, of course, they had to use Riddle to hurt them, had to beat them. Doesn't it make sense? You don't get it. Walter is a pet project from UK version of NXT 1.0. He's a 1.0 guy no matter what you say. And this is going to be a question of what's going to happen to him and Imperium. And I've heard JD talk about this, and I've heard just Alex talk about this. Bring them up to the main roster to do good. I've said this for years. Anyone who goes there gets destroyed. It doesn't make a difference if they stay on the roster. They're never the same, no matter if they succeed or not. So Walter, if he goes to the main roster, is dead. Imperium, if they go to the main roster, they'll be dead. So this is just the first step, either them being released from WWE or going to the main roster and dying a slow death until they decide to do a Tony Storm, which I did a Gump report on. If you haven't seen it, take a look at it. It only got like 20 views on it. At least somebody wanted to see it. It shows that Tony Storm couldn't take it anymore, and she took her ball and went home. Said, fuck you guys, I'm going home. That's what she did. So, I expect Imperium and Walter to sooner or later end up either doing a Tony Storm, or being released, or ending up on the main roster, or NXT, jobbing. Fly. Sorry, guys. Now, let's move on. The triple threat for the women's title of... This is what I was thinking. I knew Raquel Gonzalez was not getting that damn title back. There is no way. Vince is not interested in her. Zero interest. Then you have Cora Jade. And I know that's what he wants. He wants either one or two things. He either wants a new AJ Lee, or he wants a new Alicia Fox. It depends on which direction he's going to go in. And I know people say, you got to be kidding. Alicia Fox? Alicia was 18 years old when she joined WWE, if I remember correctly. I don't think she was 20. She was 18, if I'm correct. You guys can tell me below. But she came in when she was very young. She won her first title in her early 20s. I am telling you, either he wants to recreate an AJ Lee that will work for him, or he's going to create a Alicia Fox, which will work for him, because it's going to be the question of how long they're going to keep the women's division in the main roster as a women's division, unless he goes back to the Diva or something he calls similar to the Divas. That's the deal with Vince. I truly believe he's going to revert back to an earlier stage of how women's wrestling used to be. In the end, was it a good match? No decision. I'll say this. I'm not against Cora Jade, and I'm not against Mandy Rose. They did a good job. Now, Raquel Gonzalez, you could still see she's a bit green and sloppy. You got to be honest here. She's very powerful. She has charisma, but her ring work is not that good. One point, she almost looked like she almost lost her grip on Mandy Rose when she looked like she was going to do a choke slam, and someone called her, what was, Big Mama Cool? Seriously, Bray? No, not Bray, but, Wade. There you go. Stu Garrett. Why would you call her that? Big Mama? Please. Please. She is not even close. No. To Big Daddy Cool, no. She's not even close in charisma. She's still too green, and she's more sloppy than he is. She needs more work, counting how long she'll stay on the roster. In the end, it was either going to be Mandy Rose, which I really do believe she's going to retain, or Cora Jade, which would be the most stupidest thing Vince would have done, because this was not booked by Paul Levesque. And she won. I'm not surprised. Now, let me say this about the two situations I want to talk about. When it comes to AJ dealing with I'll say this. When it comes to Grayson Waller dealing with AJ, it's interesting. And it's good to see that AJ is working with NXT. I don't know how long he'll work with it. This may only be about a couple of more matches, and then he stays on the main roster Raw. Or he's going to go back and forth between Raw and NXT. It is interesting to see that they decided, or he asked, it's a possibility he asked, which I don't think he did. I'm sure Vince said, I need you to go to NXT and put some people over. He says, all right, Vince, whatever you want, just pay me my money. And that's what might have happened. So, him being there makes sense. He's a well-known veteran of the indie scene and TNA / well, not Impact Wrestling. He kind of left right before it started, did he? Just around that time when it transitioned from TNA to Impact is when he just bye-bye. So, he'll give credibility if he does it for a while, counting how long he does it. And the little interaction between him and Ciampa was alright, but it didn't really help now, did it? Now, when it comes to Von Wagner, what was that? Did it actually make me feel like if he actually attacked fans, what Vince should have did was to have fake cops to arrest his ass and take him away. Then that would feel more legitimate, like he's a real badass. As it stands, he didn't feel like no damn badass. Escorted out of the building after attacking some fans.
Are you fucking serious, please?
Vince, just like what happened with Seth Rollins and that fan attacking Seth, they took his ass quick. It should have been really looking cops. That the security handed them over to real looking cops and then they took him away. Then that would feel more legitimate, like a Stone Cold Steve Austin. Not saying they're trying to make him like a Stone Cold, because he doesn't come damn close. But at least they could have given the air, like a little sniff. A little sniff of a Stone Cold Steve Austin, like he's a total badass when he's not. He's being escorted away by a woman. And understand, I'm not against women. As cops, as soldiers, as wrestlers, but she had no pepper spray in her hand. And she's the one who's walking ahead of them instead of holding him, which would have made some sense. What is she going to do? If she had pepper spray in her hand or some type of device in her hand, not saying she couldn't take him on, it would have made more sense, like it felt real. That's what we need for Von Wagner. No. Finally, 10 minutes before, no, what was it? Not 11 minutes before the show was over. And that is Braun Breaker versus Tommaso Ciampa. And if you've seen the title, Old Yeller is finally done. Because that's what it comes down to it. Old Yeller has finally been done. Sorry about that. I had a situation. That fly didn't die and it pissed me off. And I bet you're still in here because I thought I killed him and I didn't. Anyway, the show went up to 10 minutes. No, 11 minutes. Then they went past that an extra, 6 to 8 minutes? So they can make it look good. Now, was the match bad? No. Unlike the women's match, which was sloppy with Raquel, here it looked fine. It was okay. And I didn't expect this to end any other way than Ciampa losing. It was time. Not because Ciampa's injured. Not because Ciampa isn't over. Not because Ciampa wants more money and they're going to release him. No. This is about Vince making it very clear that whatever Paul produced needs to be stripped away. And it's finally time for what his vision is for his developmental to be. Because as far as it went, how many people are left from the original NXT? Not that many. Now, mind you, to the moon, Cameron Grimes saying this is going to be the 2022 to the moon. He may get somewhere for a little while. Maybe Vince likes him and he will keep him. But as it stands, and I want to make this clear to anyone, that Braun Breaker didn't do a bad match. I want to make this again clear. He didn't do a bad match, neither did Ciampa. This is not about the match quality. This is about what this is all about. This is about Vince deciding that no matter what Paul produced, no matter how much people loved it, once he realized that Paul was becoming a lot more successful in a developmental, understand, this is not about if NXT was going to succeed or not. This was about Paul, that possibly, and looked like he was being groomed to take over WWE from Vince eventually. And Vince thought probably that what Paul was going to do was take over main operations while he's there, and Vince would tell him what to do. The moment he found out through people who didn't like how Paul was running NXT, clearly he learned about how the people he's already established will probably be switched out once he takes over. Vince didn't want to take that. That's the reason why NXT went to USA. It wasn't because just he wanted to get rid of AEW. He wanted to destroy Paul Levesque's credibility. Because in 2019, when NXT moved to USA, Vince took over. If you actually think he did keep the company parts separated, that Vince was running Raw and SmackDown and Paul was running NXT, that's not the deal. We all saw it for nearly 2 years before NXT switched. It wasn't NXT. Even up until they changed it, you could tell this wasn't Paul Levesque's style of producing his show. The lighting was different, the sets were different, the sound work was different, the way the promos were being done, the way the wrestling was being accomplished. It was all different. So now, Vince got what he wants. Now here's the question. Can it make someone? Having Braun Breaker on there, yes, he'll easily transition to the main roster and easily continue what he's doing because Vince will keep the, it being constant. It will stay the way it is because Vince is controlling NXT, Raw, SmackDown. He will keep the continuity. That's the name of it. Continuity, simple, smooth, and straight. Instead of how it was before, because you had a different style of wrestler and characters to what Vince liked. Braun Breaker may make it. Braun Breaker may not make it. Von Wagner may make it. Von Wagner may not make it. Because it's going to count on what mood Vince is in. Because remember
who's writing the shows.
It's not Vince. Understand. Before, Vince used to have 30 writers that were either wrestling writers or Hollywood writers. At this point, he still has multiple amounts of writers, either over 20 or 25 people. Guess what? He don't use them. He writes everything along with Bruce and Kevin Dunn. They went from 30 people who are still employed to 3. So it's going to count on how long Vince stays interested and how long that Kevin Dunn stays interested and tells Vince to drop it and he'll listen. And Bruce Pritchard, who will pretty much tell Vince, hey, we need to get rid of him. He said, why? Because it's not working for you. For me? Yeah, it's not. Well, get his ass out of here. That's what you got. And I hope you enjoyed this Zane's View. And unfortunately, with that fly buzzing around, it pissed me off. I have to turn off the camera. Have a good day. Have a good night. Peace.